Welcome to the Land Your Bet Sports Betting Show. Looking at Thursday night football in San Francisco. Got the Rams paying a visit to the 49ers. I've got player props and best bet projections here for you guys for this game, like I always do. Also, want to get back to running a giveaway. Haven't done that in a few weeks with y'all. So here's what I need. As always, jump into the comments. Let me know who you think will be the first touchdown scorer for both squads. And if you do get both right, I'll go ahead and throw you in the raffle to win the $100 with anybody else who gets that right as well. So go ahead and let me know that in the comments. I've got those player prop projections for you right now. So if this all sounds good, give that video a like. Let's get right into it. Quick reminder as we jump into this, starting with the Rams on offense, that we do have the live show every single day, 5:30 p.m. Eastern. Come in there on YouTube and Twitter. Bring your bets. Jump in the comments. I'll go ahead and share my screen with you guys and show you exactly what I'm looking at. Do this with the NBA every day. Get it on Mondays and Thursdays with the NFL. So hope to see y'all there. But looking at this Rams offense, the numbers here for the Rams indicate that they have been trailing a lot, which is the case for them on the season. That's why they're ninth in passing yards, but they are also better in terms of the pass EPA than they are rushing the ball. Although both pretty good. They've just had so many injuries this season. It's tough to really gauge. And now they're getting healthier. So I think a lot of the underlying and previous metrics that we've seen for the Rams this season, they're not as trustworthy as many teams who haven't gotten healthy like the Rams have, especially on offense at this point in the season. As far as the offensive line is concerned, it's very good. It's 10th best in adjusted yards before contact, trying to get its running back some space, does a really good job. And then it's second in limiting pressure on Matt Stafford. And that's the reason that the Rams have either won or been in the games that they are this season as much as anything, is the pressure that they limit on their quarterback and the pressure that they get on the opposing quarterback as well. Both very good for both of the lines for the Rams. On the other side of the ball, not as formidable of a defense as we've seen in the past from the 49ers. Definitely looking a lot better in the pass game. I will say they are third in limiting pass yards and 12th in terms of pass EPA. Also a team that's been trailing a bit more than we probably expected at the beginning of the season. And they're 12th in allowing rushing yards, but 28th in the rush EPA. And they're also 10th in adjusted yards before contact. So pretty evenly matched as far as the run games go. I would give not much of an edge either way. In the pass game, we'll see if the 49ers can get pressure because we've got a questionable tag on Nick Bosa, and he's been either limited or absent from practice this week so far. So it doesn't look great for him. Even if he is a go, I don't know exactly how healthy he'll be while out there. He's almost as important for the run defense, honestly, as we know he gets pressure on the quarterback in the pass game. He is also super crucial for that run defense, which has been worse over the course of the last roughly 3 weeks as he's been in and out of that off the field. For the Niners, they are a little bit better, I would say, in the pass and the run, but we also don't know who's even going to be playing running back for them at this point. We know CMC and Jordan Mason going to be unavailable for a while, if at all this season they come back. And now Isaac Guerendo, the guy who was looking awesome last week for them, as Kyle Shanahan just pulls, running backs out of his hat like it's nothing. But now Guerendo is questionable. He did practice on Wednesday in a limited capacity, but Monday and Tuesday he didn't even participate. So it's tough to say if he's going to be able to give it a go and really how healthy he'll actually be in this game. I think Brock Purdy's going to be passing a ton. I think that's going to be a bit of a problem if the Rams can get pressure, because the Niners are 17th in terms of limiting pressure on their quarterback. 26th rather in limiting pressure on their quarterback. And they are 9th in adjusted yards before contact. So if they have a running back, we know Kyle can scheme up those offensive run blocking schemes so that they are going to be able to get their guy out in space. I just, one, don't know who the guy is going to be. And two, I think that they might be trailing in this one if they're unable to stop the Rams like I think they will be. If you look at the Rams, this defense is bad, man. I would say it's a little bit better than it seems on paper when you just look at the yards that it gives up. But even on the expected points added per play, like the Niners should be able to get some explosive plays through the pass game against them. 29th in pass EPA, 27th in rush EPA. Not good on defense right now for them. So they do get decent pressure. As I was mentioning a minute ago, they are 13th in pressure percentage, 16th in blitz percentage. So they're sending it, normal amount of time right in the middle of the pack, but they are getting a good amount of pressure on the quarterback with 4 or 5 guys rushing. So I think if Brock Purdy's going to be passing a lot, like I think he will, there should be some sacks available. So let's get right into it with Brock Purdy. I think he's good for the passing yards in this one because I think he's probably good for the passing attempts as well. We saw him have a ton of success last week in a game that kind of made us rethink, canceling San Francisco this season. If they win out, which they've got a tough strength of schedule left, but if they win out, they could easily make the playoffs at 10-7. So it seems like they're making that turnaround right now, which they usually make that late push. We'll see how it goes. But I think either way, Brock is going to be pretty good for the rest of this season. He had 292 yards versus the Rams earlier this year. And now with the running back injuries that we mentioned, I just think that the passing game is going to have to be a lot more involved. We heard guys like Deebo Samuel complaining about not getting the ball in the middle of a blowout win against the Bears, which is odd. But I do think that's going to lead to a few more attempts. Kyle Shanahan kind of seemed rattled a little bit by his wide receiver talking out like that. But for the Rams, they're also just in terms of the yards per attempt. This is what I really like because of the fact that this 49ers team, while they have explosive plays with Jennings and Kittle especially, and Deebo will throw in there, I do think they're going to have a lot of success getting some yak against this Rams team. So that's going to keep the drives alive. The completion's high for Brock Purdy, and you can see 30th in opponent yards per attempt for the Rams. So every attempt that they take, and when they actually make a completion, this team for the Niners should be able to get a pretty good ADOT and get some nice passing yards down the field. So I like him to get 250 plus in this one, partly out of necessity and partly because they should be able to beat up on this Rams pass defense. No reason not to like this man to continue his torrid pace on the season. Been the best tight end this year on the season. Maybe you throw Brock Bowers in there, but Kittle's been even more consistent with a slightly better offense than the Raiders, obviously. He's gone over this number in 8 of 11 games, and he's been banged up for 2 of those games that he went under, really playing through a ton of pain. Finally seems healthy. No hamstrings, no quads, no nothing that we got to worry about for George Kittle, right? If you look at his rate among tight ends, he's 5th in target rate, his rankings, I should say, 3rd in receiving yards, 3rd in snap share, and 5th in ADOT. So he's definitely getting down the field for some longer receptions among tight ends, especially. But overall, right at about 9 yards on the average depth of target for him. So we know he's going to be able to get the yards if he gets roughly 5 receptions, which is something he's been doing uber consistently and is clearly Brock Purdy's favorite target right now. And the Rams, bad in a lot of areas. One of those is limiting tight ends. They are 12th worst limiting tight ends in terms of the receiving yards. Overall in the pass game, they're probably worse against wide receivers, to be honest. But the only wide receiver I trust right now for the Niners is one Jauan Jennings. Now, the yards are a little bit high for Jennings, but a touchdown is always a good look for this man who had 3 against the Rams. So we all remember that career game that he had in week 3 versus them. And now he's very, very healthy, which is great because he is the number 1 receiver on this team. If you look at everything to do with his target share, how many routes he's running, the amount of looks that he's getting, the first read looks that he's getting from Brock Purdy, where you see him looking at Jauan Jennings before you see him looking at Deebo, right? And this is sort of the Brandon Ayuk comp right here for Jauan Jennings, who's just also had a lot more success running actual vertical routes as opposed to Deebo, who's running a lot of crossing stuff. And against this Rams defense, you're going to find some pores in the sort of 15-ish yard range, which is exactly where Jauan Jennings lives. He is 10th in target rate on the season and clearly leads this team. He's also 10th in red zone targets. So that's another reason why I love the touchdown for him. And look, you could say George Kittle should be involved in this touchdown conversation, but Jennings is a much better number, plus 160 versus about plus 115 for Kittle to get a tutty in this one, as the number is getting really low, even though he didn't score one, I believe, last week. He's still looking at like 3 of his last 4 games. So I understand that, but the number is just better for Jennings. And there's no reason to think both of these guys can't get in, especially with the lack of run game that I think we'll probably see if Guerrero is even a little bit banged up, which I think he's going to be very banged up if we even see him on the field. And I'm unconcerned with Deebo's complaining. It doesn't really matter to me. I don't think that Kyle Shanahan's going to kowtow to that and just go and start throwing the ball more to Deebo, who's being a crybaby and is not backing up what he's done. The amount that he's talking this season hasn't backed it up with any kind of play. So that's the news coming out of SF is like, don't worry about what Deebo tweeted after a 20-point victory against the Bears. Just go ahead and stay the course with what they know, and that has been Jauan Jennings and his usage on this team when he's healthy. Other side of the ball, looking at Matty Stafford, and I'm staying away from this. I'll just let you know right now, I'm not going to play this because I can see both sides of the ball here, for lack of a better way to put it. Now, the pass defense is better for the 49ers, so I lean to the under. I'm definitely not going over, I'll say that. I was very close to hitting an under, and few things scare me here, right? Like, I know he only had 221 without Kupp or Nakua in week 3, but they were also coming back. Now, they got the defensive help. They got like short yardage, short fields with interceptions. I believe they had a defensive touchdown in that game as well in week 3 where they beat the 49ers. And the 221, I think it's indicative of what's going to happen here, even though he didn't have his wide receivers last game, because I don't think it's going to be as negative of a game script as it was in the last game. And that's the thing, is the 221, while you can say he was hindered by not having his 2 best receivers, which he was still in a negative game script for the majority of that game. right? Now, I don't know that the pass attempts are going to need to be as high. It does seem as though McVay is really going to try to establish the run game here and make sure that his offensive line, which is better than this defensive line right now for the 49ers, they're going to be able to handle them in the run game. And that's going to be a lot of Kyren Williams, who's come back with a boom. And they've also got the backup and the Rook, who's getting a bunch of touches for them as well at this point for the Rams. So, I mean, there's plenty to go around, but I think that's going to lead to a heavier run play percentage for the Rams, who would like to run the ball more. They've just been trailing, and so they've had to pass a lot. And this 49ers defense, really good pass defense, both in the yards and the yards per catch, which they're limiting to less than 10. So I don't love the yards for Stafford. I lean under, but it's going to end up being a stay away for me. This is where the over lies for me, and it's Kyren Williams at 71.5 rush yards. I think you can get some yardage against this 49ers team. I know you can, right? We might have a soggy field on Thursday. If there is some rain in the Bay Area, that is going to mean probably a little bit more run. It's not going to be a huge deal, but at the very least, it could lead to a few more sort of third down rushes where it's like 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4. Let's just pick this up on the ground with Kyren, that kind of thing. If you look at the recent rushers versus this team, 2 dudes who went clear over their prop line on the same team, first of all, in that Buffalo game, 14 for 107 for James Cook and 11 for 63 for Ray Davis. And then you had Josh Jacobs the week before, 26 for 106. So you look at this, and there's a pretty big correlation between their inability to stop the run, which has been in the bottom 15 in terms of rush EPA over the course of the last 2 weeks. And then you look at that correlated with Bosa being out, right? And he's missed a couple games, and they are notably worse in the rush defense when he is off the field, which isn't counterintuitive, but you would think that his impact would be greater against the pass. It's actually been the run where they have really suffered without Nick Bosa. And the age-old question in the receiving game for the Rams, which wide receiver do we go with? I'll tell you right now, I think it is Cooper Kupp a little bit more, but also Puka's receiving numbers are just like, his prop lines are wicked high, dude, just too high for me to feel comfortable with when he's at like 7.5 receptions. And I understand last week he's coming off 14 targets and 12 receptions, and that's fine. But this scares me a little bit more. I don't know how much they'll need to do this if they're able to pick up first downs using the rush and just keep the drive going in general using the rush, which I think they will have some success doing that. And as a result, I just don't like how high Puka's stuff is. But I think Cooper Kupp might have a better time than him this game, because if you look at how they match up in the types of coverage that the 49ers play, which is mostly cover 3, with 3 safeties there, that actually is a little bit more tailor-made for Cooper Kupp, who we know is awesome at being able to stay away from the safeties, because it's just a 10-yard dig route or a 10-yard out route, and he is usually very open as one of the best route runners in the league. So I like him on the outside a little bit more to have that success versus the inside where Puka's normally playing in that slot. I think you should see against the cover 3 some of the stuff on the outside for 10 to 15 yards for Kupp as well. And you look at his win rate versus cover 3, 14%, very high, in the top 90th percentile of the league for wide receivers, and Puka not quite as high, right? Half of that, 7%, 6.9, nice on the win rate that he is running routes and then winning those routes because he's actually catching the ball when they're running cover 3 against him. So I think Kupp is probably the better play here. I think the touchdown is the look for Kupp as well, who's done that very consistently, and we're getting a decent number because he didn't get one last week. All right, one final reminder, we got the live show tomorrow, 5:30 p.m. Eastern on Thursday. We're going to be talking about the NFL. Bring your bets and jump in. And last thing here is, if you do want to get into VIP, go ahead and check out the description of the video. Got the links to everything you need. Up 30 units in the NBA right now, up about 3 in the NFL. So we're going to look to keep it going in the NFL and close strong. But if you do want to make sure you're not missing any of these NBA bets, highly suggest checking out the description of the video for a link to that VIP access. So that's all the time I have for you guys. Hope to see you all on the live show. And until I do, happy betting.